They told us that the economic problems that arrived so suddenly, and the voices we heard in the house, the voices that seemed to come from inside the walls, were the result of a witchcraft curse placed on us. It wasn't only on my mom, as we had initially thought. The curse was against the entire family. Someone wanted to destroy us all. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share the following stories with you. Spirits in small towns, witchcraft, apparitions on the road. All of this and more you will find here tonight. And I ask that if you're listening on your way home, at night, please pay close attention to your surroundings. It could be you who sends us the next story. It could be you who is about to discover that the paranormal is real. It could be you who becomes the next protagonist of Tales of the Night. Let me tell you a story. It happened just a few weeks ago, when Julio, my best friend, my cousin, as I affectionately call him, invited me to spend a few days in his hometown during the December holidays. It's about 4 hours from here. He always goes back there for his birthday, for Christmas and New Year's, and whenever he has days off and any excuse to visit. I had already spent some holidays there several times before, back when our friend group was bigger, those times that seem more and more distant now, when we would all get together and pile into the father of our friend Chino's truck, which he would take without permission. Sometimes 6 of us crammed in, and we'd throw a big party in Julio's hometown. He only had his grandfather and an aunt left there, but he kept going back because that's where his childhood was. Because that's where his dead were. He always said it just like that. Over time, our group got smaller, little by little, and in the end, only Julio and I stayed in contact. The others drifted away, moved up north, ended up in prison, or died. Like almost everyone our age from that neighborhood. That's why this December he only invited me, even though we hadn't seen each other, or even run into each other in several months. And since I don't have much family left either, and the family I do have I'd rather not be around, I accepted. This time it wasn't just going for a night. It was staying there for several days. And honestly, I really wanted to get away from everything for a while. So that day I finished work and went straight to the bus station. I arrived by passenger bus close to midnight. But that place, Julio's village, is so small that it doesn't have a proper stop. The bus wouldn't halt there unless you asked it to. Along that stretch you can't fall asleep, or they'll take you all the way to the main town's terminal, more than an hour away. And along the route, the drivers wouldn't stop for anything because of robberies. So I tried to stay awake the whole way, until I spotted the lights of the little village a few hundred meters off the highway. I made my way to the driver and asked to be let off, telling him I was headed to that village. He looked at me with what seemed like disbelief, or maybe even concern, and braked right there on the highway without pulling over. I barely had time to get off because he never came to a complete stop. And the moment my foot touched the ground, he accelerated again, as if he wanted to recover his speed as quickly as possible. I got off and crossed the road. I took out my phone to let Julio know I had arrived, but I had no signal at all, not a single bar. I had completely forgotten that there was only a little signal inside the village itself, and none at all on the road or along the path leading to it. It was very dark, and you couldn't see a thing. Nothing at all. It felt like having your eyes closed. Once you stepped onto the dirt path, the lights of the village disappeared from view for several hundred meters. I sent Julio a message saying I had arrived and was walking toward his house, hoping that once he got a signal it would come through and he'd come out to meet me on the path. Especially since the people there didn't know me, and a stranger showing up at midnight might not be well received. I kept walking through the darkness. The sounds of the countryside surrounded me, the sounds of nature, and nothing else. Very far in the distance I heard a dog bark, and I knew I couldn't be too far from the village now. Behind me on the highway there was nothing. Complete silence. Finally, I could see a light ahead on the path. A small house. I was almost there. Then something was heard from behind that house. a silhouette came walking toward me along the side of the path. A boy, about 11 years old, who in a low voice warned me not to walk that way, not to go into the village. He told me something bad had just happened, that they were coming through there. He didn't tell me who. I told him I was looking for Julio, and that I needed to get to his house. "Come over here," he said, and headed toward the trees in the darkness, as if to lead us away from the houses. I hesitated for a moment, but if there was trouble, if there were dangerous people around, I knew things could go badly for me. And when I saw a silhouette come running from the direction of the village down the dark street, I decided to follow the boy toward the trees. "Martin, stop! Martin!" Just as I was about to reach the boy, I heard a voice that seemed to be running toward me and calling my name. It was Julio's, my cousin's. I turned back toward the path and saw him approaching from the village. He had just received my message. I embraced him and asked what had happened, whether everything was all right. "He tried to take you, didn't he?" he asked me. I told him the boy had said something bad had happened and had asked me to follow him. Julio forced a smile and told me there was no boy there, that I was lucky he had arrived in time. In that moment, I felt my stomach turn. I laughed because I was sure my cousin was joking, but I only saw him quicken his pace while asking me to keep walking and not to look back. When we arrived at his house, his grandfather was waiting for us. He had prepared something for me to eat when I arrived. I was going to ask about the boy, but Julio gave me a sign not to. During the couple of days I spent there, I realized there was no boy like the one I'd seen anywhere in the village, and it was such a small place, with so few houses and so few residents, that I know I would have noticed. The day I took the bus back to the city, my cousin walked me to the highway. It was already getting dark when we left, and by the time we reached that part of the path where you can neither see the village nor the highway, night had fully fallen. He told me not to look toward the trees, to stay quiet and keep walking. I just did as he said. I heard very clearly how someone walked right alongside us, matching our pace, but I couldn't make out anything at all. For many, this may seem like something insignificant, but now that Julio, my friend, my cousin, has told me he's going to stay in his village for a while, and that I should come visit him more, I feel like I'm going to lose the last friend I have left, because I don't want to go back. Hello. I only recently started following you on Facebook, but your videos have been appearing in my feed for a long time. I really enjoy them, so I decided to share my story here with you. I hope you read it. I know that when people hear this, they may not believe it, because I've only told a few friends and they just smile, thinking I'm making it up. But there are more witnesses in my family. My siblings, my mother, and my father. We all lived through it. I could swear by anything you ask that it was real. Just remembering it still frightens me. I'm from Michoacan, from Zamora to be exact. This happened when I was around 12 years old, around 2017. We have always been a humble family. My parents work day to day. We had no luxuries or anything like that. We led a simple life. My stepfather had spent years working for the same fruit export company, and in April of that year, he was let go. But he received a very good severance package. With that money, my mom invested in a mechanic's workshop that my uncle managed, and also in a small belt and sandal shop run by my grandfather, who knew how to hand embroider. Things slowly started to improve. We had a slightly less stressful life, but it didn't last long. Around July of that year, new neighbors moved in across the street. They quickly became friends with my mom and my stepfather. I think they could see things were going well for us, and it seemed like things were going well for them too. So they offered my mom the chance to invest in a business together. But my mom declined, saying she was already content with what she had, and that, even though the businesses were small, they were turning a profit. The neighbors didn't take that very well. You could see it on their faces. in the attitude they took toward us from that day on. They stopped speaking to us, but no one took it to heart. These things happen, and life went on normally. Until the day everything began. It started out mild, the kind of things that happen often and get confused with ordinary life. Strange noises began in the house, voices that seemed to come from inside the walls, then knocking on the doors, softly, as if to get our attention, especially when we were alone. And although that should have alarmed us, we didn't consider those manifestations serious enough. Until overnight, my younger sister, who was 7 at the time, started waking up crying very hard at night, saying that something was trying to pull her out from under the bed, that she was seeing a horrible face, a devil, in the mirror on the wardrobe. At first we didn't believe her. We liked to scare each other with silly horror things, and we thought it was dreams, or that she was making it up, until one day my grandmother witnessed it herself. She was there to see that horrible, terrifying thing my sister had been seeing. That day my sister had already gone to bed. My father and stepfather were not home. They had gone out. My grandmother says that she heard my sister crying very hard, so she ran to her room and tried to open the door, but couldn't. No matter how hard she pushed, it wouldn't open, as if something was holding it shut. She thought my sister had locked herself in, and that's why she was crying. So, she ran to the garden, since all the bedrooms had a window facing it. And when she looked through the window and saw my sister, she realized she was still asleep, but crying in a very, very disturbing way. She says something made her turn toward the mirror on the wardrobe, and she saw it. The mirror completely filled with what looked like fog, and inside it a horrible face. The face of a very dark-skinned person, with eyes so deep it seemed like if you looked into them, you would get lost, and 2 enormous horns growing from their forehead. My grandmother only managed to see the face. She says she began to pray and, as best she could, ran to open the door, pulled my sister out of there. And that was only the beginning of the misfortune that, to this day, I feel still follows us. My grandfather told my mom what had happened, and she took us to a woman who reads cards and performs spiritual cleansings. The woman said that someone living very close had cast a curse on her, a very powerful one, intended to make things go badly for her in every aspect of life, and that little by little, it would destroy her one way or another. She didn't necessarily have to die, but the curse would take everything away. The whole family would suffer the consequences. My mom didn't fully believe what the woman said, but days passed and the misfortune kept growing. My grandfather, who as I mentioned managed the sandal and belt shop, fell from a considerable height and broke his leg. He was hospitalized for a long time, and when he was released he could no longer make belts or sandals, so that business came to an end. My uncle, my mother's brother, the one who ran the mechanic's workshop, fell hard into alcohol addiction, and as a result that business also fell apart. Back at home, we kept hearing things, voices calling to us, the doors, glasses, and other objects. When everything escalated in intensity, we moved houses, thinking those things would stay behind. But we were wrong, and it got worse. The phenomena seemed angered. They began to intensify. My sister would wake up asleep on the other side of the room, saying she felt something moving her but couldn't wake up. One day as I was walking down the stairs, I clearly felt 2 hands push me from behind. I managed to grab the railing and only got scrapes, but whatever it was wanted to hurt us any way it could. After that incident on the stairs, the nights passed normally for a while. No noises, no crying from my siblings. We thought it was finally over, but the bad luck continued. We barely had enough money for food. My mom and stepfather argued constantly. Things kept getting worse in one way or another. Then one night, a night I will never forget, the most extreme thing I'm going to tell you in this story happened. It was late, nearly 11 o'clock. By that point, we were all sleeping together on the ground floor, in what used to be the living room. My siblings, my grandparents, my mom and my stepfather. All of us together on mattresses on the floor, in beds, even on the couches. We slept that way out of fear of everything that had happened on previous nights. That night we lay down hoping it would be a calm one. Then we heard a loud noise from upstairs, as if the bedroom doors were being opened and slammed shut with great force. I was still awake because of insomnia, and so were the adults, keeping watch over us. Only my siblings were asleep. The loud noises woke them up. My sister began to cry in a way that made you feel the terror she was experiencing. Desperate, wailing, saying, "It's coming and it's angry." We all tried to calm her down, telling her nothing was coming, that it was just noises like always. But then, from the staircase, came the sound of something descending. Not normal footsteps. They were hard and heavy, like the hooves of an animal, a large animal. You would have imagined it was a bull coming down. The lights in the rooms grew very dim, like when something is drawing too much voltage. We weren't left in complete darkness, but they barely gave any light at all. We turned toward the staircase, where the sounds were coming from, and we saw a figure standing halfway down. And there, we all saw it. We all saw what had been tormenting us, finally manifesting itself. It was a very tall man, with very dark skin, completely black eyes, shoulder length, slightly curly hair, horns, and hooves instead of feet. The one we call the devil. He only looked at us and smiled. I didn't see how the others reacted. I remember that I began to cry from fear, along with my sister. We just held each other and cried. My grandmother began to pray several prayers, but it just stood there on the staircase. Then she began to pray a prayer called the Magnificat. That's when we saw its expression change, from a smile to rage. While my grandmother prayed and threw holy water from where she stood, the figure slowly backed up the stairs, retreating from our sight. We heard it leave. A scream of fury rang out from outside the house, so powerful that I could swear even the neighbors heard it. My grandfather placed salt and holy water at the door. Later, we woke up again. We could hear that thing scratching at the back door, at the walls, as if trying to get back inside. Until nearly dawn, when everything finally went quiet. We couldn't believe what we had witnessed. We thought it had all been a nightmare, until we went outside and found the door covered in scratch marks. That day, my mom took us to see another woman, this time a witch, who told her that what we had seen was the result of a very powerful curse placed on the entire family, carried out using objects taken from a graveyard. She performed a spiritual protection for my siblings and me, and told my mom to break the mirrors through which that thing had appeared and from which it seemed to emerge. My mom removed the mirrors from the wardrobe, put them in a black trash bag, and took them to some fields outside. She says that when she broke the mirrors inside the bag, it began to inflate, as if it were filling with air. Since then, we have never seen that thing again. That devil. But the bad luck still seems to follow us. We live well enough. We don't have as many financial problems, but many things have happened within the family, and it's hard not to think that we're still bound to something. That part of the curse is still alive. I know this is a heavy topic, community. That witchcraft is something that, even if you don't believe in it, always leaves you with a little doubt, a little respect. And maybe that's for the best. What I'm going to ask is that, especially when it comes to this, please don't let it get inside your head. Sometimes we feel like we're in a bad streak, that everything is going wrong, and it keeps going and going and going, and we believe it must be witchcraft, a hex, a spell, that it's impossible to get out of it. If you have a spiritual side, whatever it may be, lean on it deeply, and please feel confident that everything can be overcome. It takes time, patience, and work, but you can get through any rough patch, believe me. Don't give up. We need you at your best.